I was watching Joe Rogan. It might have been this most recent show with Woody Harrelson. Uh, that's not particularly important. I don't have. I'm not putting it down below for you to watch. It was a very long show and it talked about all kind of things. And really, the issue I want to talk about isn't what they discussed that was something that you really need to know, but I want to talk about who he is and etc. Now, he grew up. Doesn't matter that he talks about his parents were hippies and he grew up in the '60s and he was afraid of the um, getting drafted and these kind of things. What I think uh, it's a very entertaining show to me. I like listening to him. I like to listen to all kind of things. I appreciate that Joe Rogan is pretty open to all kind of stuff. So you can go on there, watch the guy. I think the most popular interview he's had was by the guy who claims to have worked on alien spaceships in Area 51. Uh, so you can hear all kind of things. Some things, and I've shared things I believe already. He had an interview with a guy who is a Christian apologist from Canada. His name doesn't come to mind. You can look at old videos. You might see where I point him out. But that was a very good interview, very beneficial. Why? Because as he states, he lets people just express themselves. He doesn't have to believe what you believe, but he just lets people talk, whatever it is, whether it's stuff that's a conservative or whether it's liberal, whether it's crazy, wacky. He likes to talk about drugs a lot and taking drugs. That seems to be a thing that he thinks is a really good thing. And there was a lot of that with Woody Harrelson. But when the thing I wanted to point out is that he is like today's Oprah Winfrey, today's Phil Donahue, where and probably more like Phil Donahue than Oprah Winfrey. I mean, Oprah, at least as time went on, she seemed to be trying to convince people of her particular religious views. I mean, she'll state it in a non demanding way, but she's a, a evangelist for her own worldview. Let's put it that way. Rogan isn't so much an evangelist for his own worldview as he is just glad to state it and tell you what he thinks. And if you think that he's brilliant, he's a very smart guy, no doubt about it. If you think you ought to, oh, this guy's so brilliant, well, I should do what he does. And to me, from my perspective, Joe has a lot of growth to go in his spiritual walk. He would probably think he needs to take some psychedelics to get there, but from my life experience, that wouldn't do you very much good. And so, one of the things they talked about today was somehow Woody Harrelson said, "Well, what is your particular religious views?" And he was saying, "Well, I don't really hold to a lot of things." He's a Christian kind of guy, but I wouldn't say that he is a Christian, and I don't think he would claim to be that either. Uh, but I guess he comes from a Christian society. He holds to Christian values, as long as they're not too demanding on you, too restrictive, etc. But one of the things, this is the kind of thing that the issue I have about uh, watching or listening to people like Joe Rogan. By the way, before I go forward, let me tell you to please subscribe, like, if you think the kind of stuff I'm giving you is worth listening to and that others might enjoy it or get something out of it. And of course, make your own comments. Just be polite and kind as you do it. So, but so he'll come up with the Woody Harrelson will ask him, well, what are your religious views? And he went into this commentary about, well, there was a ordained minister. At least he had been an ordained minister. I don't know whether he really is one or not. But he was a Sea Scroll scholar, and he wrote a book called The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross. And he talked as if this thing just explained everything about Christianity and how Christianity was actually a the stories come out of psychedelic mushrooms and mushroom trips and fertility rituals. That's what John, let's see, what is this? John Marco Legro, I don't know what his last name is. Book is The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross, if you want to read it. I wouldn't suggest it because I need to look into this guy myself. But it does sound like something I'd recommend reading. There's a lot of people who, in fact, over time, you can watch things on PBS about Christianity and everything, and they always have these ministers who are willing to talk about this unorthodox stuff. I'm not against unorthodoxy in the sense that let's look at everything. Okay, let's look at everything from every angle. I'm all for that. I'm not against unorthodoxy as far as you don't have to go through a particular ritual a particular way all the time. As I listen to him making these comments, he says a lot of things have been co-opted by goofy people like religion. And I would say this would be one of those goofy people. But he seems to think it's a great book, okay? So on the one hand, a lot of things have been co-opted by goofy people. That's Joe Rogan. And then on the other hand, he says, and here's a guy who's written something brilliant, and that it shows that Christianity came out of using psychedelic mushrooms in their wine during ritual things and fertility rituals. Well, a few videos ago, I made some comment about Deepak Chopra not knowing anything about Christianity. There's a lot of people who don't know anything about Christianity. And if they do know anything about Christianity and they want to say something like this kind of stuff, I would say they're just inspired by evil. Okay. I mean, you can study religions, and I have no doubt that and Joe Rogan talks about how this guy writes about how, no, it was another guy who had written some book about doing a study on ancient archaeological, I guess, goblets or whatever the wine was drunk out of it, and they found these psychedelic compounds in the goblets, the chalices or whatever they were using, whatever they found. I don't doubt that. I'm not saying that didn't happen. And I don't know what he means by Christian stories. Now, I can tell you if he's talking about coming out of the Catholic tradition, if this particular author is out of the Catholic tradition, well, there are all kind of rituals, all kind of traditional things that are not strictly biblical things, that don't represent anything that you get in Scripture. And if they were important things, I think we would see a record of it in the Bible. You would see a record of it spoken about the apostles, as the apostles expressed things. Why wouldn't Paul have a record of it if this was the thing that people did? Yeah, I went and had we did communion with our mushroom compound in it, and it helped us. See, this is like peyote. This is stuff people want to put these things together. There's a word for that. That don't really work. Yeah, if the American Indians use peyote to have a spiritual event, and there's a whole lot of people who like to think that that's a great thing to do because psychedelics expand your mind. Well, psychedelics can open you up to all kinds of things. We do need to have an open mind, but or be open-minded, but we don't need to have an open mind. We are not a cup that the universe can pour into, because the universe isn't all love, y'all. There's evil out there too. And when we open up to universal whatever, then we can get corruption into our minds. So, you know, for Christians, you get a new mind. If you read Paul, you get a new mind, which means you're setting aside all of that corrupt stuff that you believed before, and now you have a new mind. But and so it's important, you know, I have to listen to Joe Rogan with a new mind. I don't listen to it. I'm not open to everything. I enjoy listening to all the many things that I don't listen to him every day, but I listen to him now and again, and especially when it looks like he's interviewing somebody I'd be interested in listening to or whatnot. But you know, I just appreciate that he'll let other people express themselves. Now, this is much like, to me, like a college bull session. Kind of, that's what it's like. Conversations that I would have had with the college roommates or whatnot when we were sitting around late at night, or maybe some you wouldn't have in the bar because you couldn't hear yourself talking in the bar. But that's the kind of discussion it is. Well, what do you think? Well, I think so and so, so and so, and so and so. Well, I wouldn't believe that. I can't believe that. No, if that's anybody who believes that, I'd discount that. That can't be true because I don't want to believe that. Well, you know, and there's all kind of interesting. There's a lot of knowledge to be absorbed about the world, but to say that, to insinuate that the Christian faith, as we know it, the Orthodox Christian faith, and obviously there's been plenty of unorthodox, what's the word, non-Christian, there's a word for that. It's not a word I throw at people normally. But anyway, perversions of the Christian faith that are not biblical, and there's plenty of it in our churches today, plenty of it. Or too much. Well, plenty of it is, any is too much, right? But so plenty to be dealt with. But and certainly we know that, yes, you know, whenever as I understand it, whenever Constantine, when they made Christianity in the late 300s the religion of the empire, and that meant all of the pagan temples and everything couldn't be functioning as pagan temples anymore. Now they had to be Christian. Well, I suspect that all those pagan temple guys and the prostitutes and everybody else that made their living out of the pagan temple, that they're probably like what's going on in our government right now with people who don't want to lose their job. And they're going to stick around unless somebody throws them out. Well, so my suspicion, although I've not done a deep study into this, my suspicion, and I have heard other people insinuate this, is that you had pagan priests who then, okay, well, now I've got to be a Christian priest, so let me take on, let me learn about the Christian stuff, and I'll participate in that. Well, you can see if you look at I did a video several weeks ago on the early church, on how they, with a guy who spoke about the house churches, which is where the church was for over 200 years. They were meeting in people's houses. And temples weren't built until Constantine built the first temple, right? There wasn't any churches built. So what you have is people who are coming out of this pagan background who are taking on the Christianity, and they're putting it into their form of religion. So you can see where, yes, there was people who there were people who were not real Christians. And we've got those in the church today as well. People who are not real Christians, they're not biblical Christians. They're not Christian people who they're worldview is based on what the apostles, the original apostles, uh, defined our lives as Christians to be. But they've added all kind of these layers on top of it. So you go look at the Pope, and he's carrying around all these things, sun god stuff, all kind of symbols that came from other cultures and other religions, and he's carrying them. And of course, we know, it's so readily uh, claimed that hey, this holiday, this Christian holiday was where the church took over a pagan holiday and Christianized it so that they could make everybody, when they moved into your country and you had your holiday, they took it over and made you a Christian by taking over your holiday. And we think the same thing happened in Central America with some of the natives down there, with the Catholic Church took on a lot of. So you have that Saint Muerte, the death saint or whatnot. I'm obviously showing my lack of what's the term? A grasp of all of these things, but they're just little pieces of information floating out here, okay? and they all come together in a with me to say you have to watch out. Go ahead and listen to people like Joe Rogan. Listen to Oprah. Probably you're not doing that, probably, but I'm just saying there's people to listen to, but beware that when they start, you need to know if you're a Christian, what your faith is. If you're a Muslim, you need to know what your faith is. If you're an Hindu, you need to know what your faith is, because these people are just out there shooting the bull, okay? Now, of course, as a Christian, I believe that you ought to read the Gospels, regardless of what religion you're in, because if you're a Muslim, you claim that you claim Christian books, right? Go ahead, get a Bible, an actual Bible, and read the Gospels. And if you're a Hindu who thinks you understand how we're all one with God, get a Bible and read the Gospel, and understand and see, hey, there is a difference in these religions. Today we've got this huge movement going on that everything is the same thing. It's not true. So it's very important to know where you stand, so that when you listen to somebody who's having a bull session, and that's just what this very intelligent guy, Joe Rogan, who knows a lot and he can rip off. You notice how I bumbled over everything. Well, he's ripping it all off, right? Just from memory. So he's a very sharp guy. But you need to know that a lot of the stuff that he's throwing at you is dirty water. Okay, it ain't holy water. Anyway, please, again, share, subscribe, like, share, and if I put up a video, it'll be right over here. Seek truth, pray to truth, to our God, and you will find truth.